Imagine this scenario. It's a Tuesday. It's maybe 2 in the afternoon. You've had your coffee. You're feeling okay.
You're in the zone.
You're in the zone. You're at your desk, maybe wearing a headset, or perhaps you're standing behind a counter at a retail store. Everything is, relatively calm. And then the door opens,
Or the phone rings.
or a notification pops up on your screen.
And the atmosphere just changes instantly. You know what's coming.
Instantly, you see that face, or you hear that specific tone of voice.
The tone that says, I am not here to make friends.
Exactly. It is the universal signal of, I have a problem, and it is now your problem. And in that exact second, what happens? Your stomach just drops. The palms get a little sweaty. You feel that heat rising up the back of your neck. It's the customer complaint panic.
It's a visceral reaction.
Yeah.
It's evolution, really. Someone is confronting us, stepping into our territory with aggression.
Yeah.
And our ancient lizard brain just screams, danger, fight or flight.
And that's hard enough to deal with in your own native language where you have all the words, right? You know how to defend yourself in your first language.
Sure.
But imagine doing that in a second language, in English. Suddenly your vocabulary evaporates, you forget your grammar rules, you just want to hide under the desk.
Or yell back.
Which, spoiler alert for everyone listening, is usually not the right move in customer service.
Rarely the winning strategy, no.
But that specific moment of panic, that is what we are tackling today. Because if you can master that moment, if you can take that angry, chaotic energy and transform it into a professional success, you have unlocked a serious superpower.
It really is a superpower. And it's not just about surviving the interaction, it's about thriving in it. It's about being the person who can walk into a fire and, put it out with words.
So, welcome to Hello English. This is the place where we take the scary, complex parts of learning a language and turn them into your biggest strengths. Today, we are doing a deep dive into a source that is, honestly, a goldmine. It's a comprehensive guide on how to deal with customer complaints.
And what I really appreciate about this source material is that it recognizes the complexity of the task. It isn't just giving us a list of nice words to say. It understands that this is a high-pressure environment.
Right. It's not just, here's a noun, here's a verb, good luck. It goes much deeper. The source outlines what it calls a double goal for this deep dive. And I think this is critical for you to understand right off the bat. We aren't just doing one thing today. We are doing two things at the same time.
Exactly. It's a parallel process. Goal number one is what we're calling the language mechanics.
The nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts, yeah. The grammar, the specific vocabulary, the pronunciation. The technical stuff you need so you don't sound like you're struggling to form a sentence. You need that sentence structure to be correct so the customer trusts your competence.
But then there is the second layer, goal number 2. And honestly, I think this is the one that really separates the beginners from the masters.
Emotional intelligence.
The EQ side of things.
Right. How do you use English to de-escalate anger? How do you show empathy? How do you solve a problem without losing your cool? Because here is the harsh truth. You can speak grammatically perfect English and still come across as cold or rude or dismissive if you don't understand the emotional nuance of the language.
That is such a huge distinction. I can say the phrase, please sit down, perfectly, but if I say it with a sharp tone to an angry customer, I'm not being polite, I'm starting a riot.
Precisely. The tone and the intent carry more weight than the vocabulary itself. So we're going to break down this guide, which features insights on common learner mistakes, specific role-play scenarios like the classic lost package or the broken item, and the psychology behind why customers get mad in the first place.
Okay, let's start with that psychology. Because before we even open our mouths to speak English, we have to get our heads right. The source talks about a mindset shift. Let's unpack that. What is the biggest mental block people have when a customer starts complaining?
The biggest block, without a doubt, is taking it personally. The source makes a crucial observation here. When a customer complains, the natural human instinct is to feel attacked. You hear, this product is broken, but what your ego hears is, you are bad at your job.
Right. You feel the need to put up a shield. You want to say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't break it. The shipping guy broke it. Don't look at me.
Exactly. That is the defensive instinct. It's that fight response we were talking about. But the source argues that you have to understand the why behind the complaint. It is rarely, if ever, about you as a person.
It's hard to remember that in the moment, though. When someone is yelling at you, it feels very much about you.
It does. But let's look at the facts. Why are they yelling? Because the product is broken. Because the service was slow. Or, and this is a big one that the source highlights, The customer is just having a really, really bad day.
That is so true. I mean, think about the last time you were snappy with a cashier. It probably wasn't because the cashier did anything terrible.
Definitely not.
It was because you were late, you were hungry, you spilled coffee on your shirt, and the traffic was bad.
Exactly. The cashier is just the person standing there when the explosion finally happens. You aren't the cause of the explosion. You're just the witness.
So the first step in this mindset shift is realizing that the complaint isn't a weapon aimed at you. It is a problem placed in front of you. The source describes this as shifting from being an enemy to an ally.
I love that framing. Enemy to ally. It changes everything about your body language, your tone, everything.
How does that work in practice? I mean, what does that actually look like?
Well, if you are defensive, you are the enemy. You are standing between the customer and what they want. You are a wall. But if you shift your mindset, you become an ally. You are virtually walking around the counter to stand next to them, looking at the problem together.
I like that image. So instead of standing face to face like two boxers in a ring, you are standing shoulder to shoulder looking at the issue on the table.
That is the perfect visualization. You aren't fighting the customer, you are investigating a problem with them. And this mindset shift dictates your tone. This is where the English nuance comes in. The source emphasizes that English in customer service is generally indirect and polite, not blunt.
Indirect. That is interesting. Can we explore that? Because I know for a lot of learners, indirect feels like wasting time.
It can, yeah.
Sometimes when you are learning a language, you just want to get the point across efficiently. You want to say, no, you're wrong, or wait here.
And that efficiency is valued in some cultures.
Yeah.
But in English-speaking customer service cultures, that same efficiency can come across as aggression. If you're blunt, you sound like an enemy. If you're indirect and polite, you sound like an ally.
Give me an example of that.
Okay, so the difference between saying you are wrong and I think there may be a misunderstanding.
Oh, I think there may be a misunderstanding. That is so much softer.
It cushions the blow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You aren't accusing them of being wrong. You are suggesting that the situation is unclear. It leaves room for dignity on both sides. One starts a fight, the other starts a conversation.
Or compare something like, that's not possible with, let me see what we can do.
Exactly. That's not possible as a door slamming shut in their face.
Yeah, it's final.
It's final. Let me see what we can do. Keeps the door open, even if the answer eventually is no. It shows effort. It shows you're on their team.
Okay, so we have the mindset. We are allies. We have suppressed our defensive instinct. We are ready to be polite. Now, this brings us to the moment of truth. Section 2, the opener.
The opener. The customer has just dropped the bomb. My order hasn't arrived, or this soup is cold. Silence is your enemy here. You need to respond immediately.
And you need to apologize. But the source gets really specific here. It's not just about saying sorry. It's about how you say it and the specific phrase you choose to anchor that apology.
Right. The source highlights two major phrases for this first sentence. The first one is the workhorse of empathy. I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds so simple, almost too simple. Is it enough?
It is simple, but let's look at why it works. It's human. It's immediate. Notice what you aren't doing. You aren't admitting guilt. You aren't saying, I broke your soup or I lost your package. You are saying that you feel bad hearing that they are having a bad experience.
That is a key distinction. You aren't taking the blame yet. You're just connecting on a human level. I hear your bad news and it makes me sad for you.
Exactly. But then there's the second phrase. This one is a bit more formal, a bit more corporate, but absolutely essential to have in your toolkit.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
Yes.
You will hear this in almost every professional setting in the English-speaking world.
Let's do a deep dive on that word. Inconvenience. Because, let's be honest, it's a mouthful.
It is a monster of a word for a learner. 5 syllables.
And it looks scary on paper. Inconvenience.
It does. The source defines inconvenience as something that causes trouble or difficulty. When you use this word, you are acknowledging that the customer's time has been wasted. You are validating their annoyance. You're saying, I know you had a plan, and I know we messed up that plan.
But because it's a long word, I feel like learners might trip over it or rush through it just to get it over with.
And that is the trap. The source warns specifically about the delivery here. If you rush it, if you say, sorry for the inconvenience, it sounds robotic.
Right.
It sounds like a script you don't care about.
It sounds like a generic recording on a phone line. We are sorry for the inconvenience. Please hold.
Exactly. And nothing makes a human angrier than feeling like they're talking to a robot. To make it work, you have to own the word. Let's look at the pronunciation focus provided in the source. It breaks it down by syllables, inconvenient.
Inconvenient.
And the stress point is vital. In English, stress changes meaning and emotion. The source emphasizes stressing the third syllable, so it's inconvenience.
Inconvenience. Let me try. Inconvenience.
Yes. If you hit that VEN strong, it gives the word weight. It sounds sincere. I am sorry for the inconvenience.
I can hear the difference. When you slow it down and hit that stress, it sounds like you actually mean it. You are respecting the gravity of the situation.
And that is the goal. Speed communicates panic or, indifference. Slow, deliberate pacing communicates control and sincerity.
It's interesting, isn't it? When we get nervous, our instinct is to talk faster.
Right, to get it over with.
But the source is saying do the opposite. Force yourself to slow down.
Exactly. It calms you down and it calms them down.
So we have the mindset, we have the opener, a sincere apology with proper stress. Now we move to section 3, the art of acknowledgement. The source calls this empathy over logic.
This is where so many interactions go off the rails. You have apologized, and now your brain wants to fix the problem. You want to jump straight to the logic. But the source warns against what it calls the robot trap.
The robot trap. I assume this is when you just say, okay, and start typing on your computer.
Exactly. The customer says, I'm really mad because I needed this for a birthday party and now it's ruined. And you say, okay, what is your order number?
Ouch. Yeah. That feels cold. Very cold.
It creates a huge disconnect. You haven't acknowledged the emotion, only the transaction. The source says you need to acknowledge before you act.
Okay, so let's define that. What does acknowledge really mean in this context?
It means recognizing someone's feelings or problems openly. It's saying, I see you and I see your pain. And just like with inconvenience, the pronunciation matters.
Let's break it down.
The stress is on the second syllable. It's ak, knowledge.
Acknowledge, like the word knowledge.
Right. I want to acknowledge what you were saying. And to do this effectively, the source gives us some empathy phrases. These are gold for learners because they are ready-made scripts. You don't have to invent them in the moment of panic.
Let's hear them. And for you listening, I want you to pay attention to how these sound. They aren't complex, but they are powerful.
Okay. Phrase 1. I understand that this is frustrating.
I understand that this is frustrating. That is powerful because you are naming the emotion. You are validating that it is frustrating. You aren't saying, calm down, it's not a big deal.
Oh, never say calm down. That is the quickest way to make someone explode.
Really?
It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. By saying, I understand this is frustrating, you are aligning with them. You are saying, if I were you, I would be frustrated too.
What's the second phrase?
I understand your concern. This one is good for when they aren't angry yet, just, worried. Maybe they are worried the package is lost, but they aren't yelling. It matches their level.
And phrase 3?
I'm here to help. Simple, direct, reassuring. It reminds them of your role. You are the helper, not the obstacle.
The psychological aspect mentioned in the source is crucial here. The customer needs to feel heard before they can hear a solution.
It's like a gate in their brain. If they are emotional, the gate to the logic part of their brain is closed. If you try to shove a solution like a refund or an exchange through a closed gate, it just bounces off. They don't hear you.
Because they are still screaming inside.
Exactly. You have to use empathy to open the gate. Once they feel heard, the gate opens, and then they can listen to your solution.
That is such a good visual. And this brings us to the correction corner regarding tone. The source highlights a specific mistake, trying to argue or defend yourself immediately.
We mentioned this earlier, the defensive instinct. If a customer says, you guys always mess up, the mistake is to say, no, we don't. That's not true.
You're just starting a fight at that point.
You are. The fix, according to the source, is simple. Don't match their anger. If they are yelling, if their energy's up here, you stay calm. Your energy stays down here. If they're talking fast, you talk slow. It's verbal judo. You absorb the energy rather than reflecting it back.
So instead of, it's not my fault, use, I understand this is frustrating. You act as a rock in the storm.
Exactly. Eventually, the storm runs out of energy, but the rock is still there.
And notice the linking in these phrases, too. In natural speech, we don't say, I understand that this is frustrating, like a robot.
Right. It flows. It sounds more like, I understand that this is, the words connect, I'm sorry to hear that, becomes sorry to hear that. It's soft. It's fluid.
Okay, so we have diffused the emotion, the customer feels heard, the gate is open. Now we have to actually do the job. We have to fix the problem. This moves us to section 4, the investigation. And this is where we get into some serious grammar action.
We do. We are transitioning from feelings to facts. The key phrase to bridge this gap is, let me check that for you, or let me check what happened.
Let me check. It signals action. It signals that you are moving into detective mode.
Correct. And again, notice what you're not saying. You're not saying, I don't know.
Right.
You're saying, let me check. It turns ignorance into action.
And the source uses a specific scenario here, a lost package. This is a classic customer service nightmare. Where is my stuff?
And here's where we hit a grammar spotlight. The source points out a very common mistake learners make when discussing things that haven't arrived.
I think I know this one. Is it your package is not arrived?
That is the one. Your package is not arrived. To a native speaker, that sounds very clunky. It sounds unnatural.
It sounds like you are translating directly from another language, maybe. I know in French or German, that structure might work perfectly.
Exactly. But in English, the source corrects this to the present perfect tense. Your package hasn't arrived.
It hasn't arrived. Why is this the specific tense we need? Why not just past tense? Why not it didn't arrive?
This is a great nuance. The present perfect connects a past event to the present moment. Think of it like a bridge. The package was supposed to arrive in the past, but the state of non-arrival is still true right now.
Oh, I see.
It bridges that gap. It hasn't arrived. Implies that the situation is ongoing.
Right. If you said it didn't arrive, it sounds like the story is over. It didn't arrive yesterday. So that's it. But hasn't arrived implies we are still in the middle of the situation. It hasn't arrived yet.
Exactly. It keeps the situation active. And notice the contraction. Hasn't. We don't usually say has not in spoken English unless we're being very, very emphatic. Hasn't arrived softens it a bit.
It keeps the flow natural. So you check the system, you see the status. Now you have to confirm the issue.
This seems like a step people might skip. They see the problem and just want to fix it. Why do we need to confirm it?
Because assumptions are dangerous. If you assume you know the problem, but you're wrong, you're going to solve the wrong thing. And that makes the customer twice as mad.
True. Very true.
The technique here is repeating the problem in your own words.
The source gives this example. So your package hasn't arrived yet, and you needed it this week. Is that correct?
Is that correct? That little question at the end is like a safety check.
It is. It forces the customer to say yes. And psychologically, getting the customer to say yes is a huge win. You are building a pattern of agreement. You are now on the same page.
And it shows you were listening. It loops back to empathy. I heard you needed it this week.
Precisely. Now that we have facts and feelings aligned, we move to section 5, the solution. This is where we save the day.
And the source highlights a very subtle but important vocabulary distinction here. Offer versus give.
This is fascinating. In casual life, we give things all the time. I'll give you a cookie. I'll give you a ride. But in customer service, give can sound a little casual, maybe even a little dismissive.
How so?
It can sound like you're handing out a favor or like you're talking to a child. I'll give you a candy if you stop crying.
Right. It feels top down, like you have the power and you're bestowing something upon them.
Right. The source suggests using offer. I can offer you a refund. We can offer a replacement.
Offer sounds much more professional. It sounds like a formal proposal.
It does. It implies respect. The definition is to present something for acceptance. You are presenting a solution for their consideration, treating them like an equal partner in the transaction.
And speaking of partners, the source talks about the power of choice. This is a psychological trick, isn't it?
It is a brilliant strategy. When a customer is angry, why are they angry? Usually because they feel helpless. They paid money, they got nothing, and they have no control. Your job is to give them that control back.
So instead of telling them what you're going to do, you give them options.
Exactly. Look at the script provided in the source for the loop package. It says, I can check the tracking number right now, and if it doesn't arrive today, I can offer a full refund or send a replacement.
A full refund or send a replacement, option A or option B.
And then the magic question, which would you prefer?
Which would you prefer? Boom! You just handed the steering wheel back to the customer.
And you will see their anger deflate instantly. Because now they have to think. They have to make a choice. They aren't a victim anymore. They are a decision maker.
That is so smart. It turns the conflict into a collaboration. We are solving this together, and you get the final say.
Exactly. It transforms the dynamic completely.
Okay, we have covered the theory. We have the steps. Now, let's look at this in action. Section 6 is a role-play analysis. The source gives us a specific story, the broken phone case.
This is a classic e-commerce disaster. You buy a fan case, you're excited, you wait for the mail, you open the box, and it's cracked.
Heartbreak. So the customer writes in or calls, "My case arrived cracked. I'm very disappointed."
Notice the emotion there. Disappointed.
Yeah.
That is a strong word. It cuts deeper than mad. It means you let them down. So let's walk through the response steps we just learned.
Okay, step 1, acknowledge. What do you say?
The source suggests, I'm very sorry to hear that your case arrived cracked.
I noticed they didn't just say, "Sorry to hear that." They added that your case arrived cracked. They used the specific detail.
That proves it is not a copy-paste response. It proves a human read the complaint. It makes the customer feel seen.
Okay, step 2, confirm and investigate.
Can you tell me your order number so I can check what happened?
Friendly, helpful, moving to facts, using "can you" instead of "give me." It's polite.
Mm-hmm. And then step 3, offer solution.
We can send you a replacement immediately or issue a full refund. Which would you prefer?
There it is again, the choice. Replacement immediately or full refund? And that polite closing question.
And I noticed the word "immediately." That's a nice touch.
It is. It shows urgency. We can send a replacement immediately. It tells the customer you are prioritizing them.
The host in the source describes this interaction as polite and professional. It ticks every box. It validates the disappointment, investigates the cause, and empowers the customer with a solution.
And it does it all without sounding robotic or defensive. It sounds smooth.
That is the goal.
But, as we know, the road to fluency is paved with potholes. Section 7 takes us into the danger zone, common learner mistakes. These are the things that can accidentally ruin that professional vibe.
One of the biggest pitfalls is tone violations, specifically being too casual.
Too casual. Give me an example.
Imagine a customer is upset about a serious billing error in, money stuff, and you say, "No problem, dude. I gotcha."
No problem, dude. I mean, if I'm at a surf shop buying wax, maybe. But in a professional office, no.
It creates a mismatch, right? The customer is serious, you are casual. It makes it seem like you don't take their problems seriously.
Exactly. It minimizes the problem. No problem, dude, implies this is a small thing. But to the customer, it is a big thing.
So what is the fix? What should you say instead?
I'll be happy to help.
"I'll be happy to help." It's warm, but it's respectful. It keeps the boundary clear. It says, "I am a professional and I am at your service."
Another massive mistake is the apology loop.
I'm so guilty of this. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Really sorry about that. So sorry."
We all do it. We think if we say sorry 10 times, it will fix it faster. But in a professional context, over-apologizing actually makes you look weak or incompetent. It can make the customer more anxious because you seem rattled.
That is a great insight. If the pilot of the plane comes on and says, "Sorry, sorry, sorry, folks, we have an issue," I'm getting worried.
Exactly. You want a pilot who says, "Apologies for the turbulence, we are correcting course." The rule from the source is, one sincere apology is enough. Then move strictly to the solution.
One and done. Make it count, then fix it.
And finally, a quick recap of that grammar check, don't say.
The package is not arrived.
Do say.
The package hasn't arrived.
Perfect.
So we have the skills, we have the phrases, but there is one final piece of the puzzle. Section 8. Building confidence. Because you can know all these words and still freeze up when the moment comes.
That is the reality of language learning. Fear is a physical reaction. The source makes a point to normalize fear. It explicitly says that feeling nervous is okay.
I love that. Hearing that it's okay to be scared actually makes you less scared.
It does. But the way to overcome it is through the formula. Language plus calm tone. Confidence.
Language plus calm tone, confidence.
Even if you are shaking inside, if you have the right script, if you know you are going to say, "I understand," and let me check, you don't have to panic about what to say. That removes half the anxiety.
Okay, so the script is the safety net.
And then, if you focus on a calm tone, slowing down, lowering your pitch, you can actually trick your own brain. By speaking calmly, you actually calm yourself down.
Fake it till you make it, but with a specific toolkit.
Exactly. And the source suggests a practice strategy, muscle memory. Don't just read these phrases, say them out loud.
Role play the phone case story in the shower.
Yes.
Role play the lost package scene while you were driving.
Get your mouth used to the shape of the words. Inconvenience, let me check that for you.
So that when the pressure is on, you don't have to think. The words just come out.
It's like training for a sport. You practice the swing thousands of times so you don't have to think about it in the game.
So let's recap the 5 steps to success one last time for everyone listening.
Okay. Step 1. Listen carefully. Don't interrupt. Use listening noises like "I see" or Right. Step 2. Acknowledge feelings, using empathy phrases like, that must be frustrating.
Okay.
Step 3. Confirm the problem. Repeat it back to ensure you got it right.
Got it.
Step 4. Offer a solution. Use offer, not give, and provide a choice if possible.
And the last one.
Step 5. Stay calm and polite throughout the entire interaction.
Simple steps, but mastering them takes practice. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the art of customer complaints.
And remember, the philosophy here isn't about being perfect immediately. You might slip up. You might say, is not arrived once. That is okay.
Mistakes in learning are normal. The goal is natural, polite progress. You are building a skill set that will help you not just in English, but in your career for years to come.
Absolutely.
So here's our challenge to you. The next time you are in a situation, even if it's just a small misunderstanding at the grocery store, try using one of these phrases. Try saying, I'm sorry to hear that, or let me check that for you, to see how it changes the feeling of the conversation.
It's a small tool with a big impact.
And if you found this deep dive helpful, you are definitely going to want to stick around for what's coming next on the channel. We've talked about handling the negative stuff complaints, but what about the positive? How do you handle compliments without being awkward?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a whole different kind of panic. Oh, this old thing.
Exactly. We're going to teach you how to accept praise gracefully, and even bigger, how to negotiate a salary.
The ultimate tough conversation.
That is where the money is. Mastering these moments is what takes you from learning English to living in English. So make sure you keep watching. We'll see you in the next app.
Hello, English.
Goodbye, everyone.